a great time for that. Just make sure it's in your computer, not in the cloud, because it's really full of events that we need to download and upload. We have a lot of sessions coming soon.
Okay, yeah, I did it to my computer.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Well, this is a great segue. Thanks, Paula, for reminding me. I'm glad we did this on.
It's okay. Okay.
Okay, so now Mike and Christopher, if you will please share a bit about yourselves, and we'll jump into our discussion. I'm not sure if I need to turn the mics over to you guys at all, but I think you're off mute.
I can go first. Looks like Christopher's on mute. Yeah, so Laura, I'm a biotech professional who's worked in the neuroscience space since about 2003. Graduated from UMBC up here in Maryland about quite a ways ago, but got 2 degrees and been part of a formative group in the Washington, D.C. area that's doing neurofeedback practicing, kind of doing a meetup group sort of thing, and it was very formative, and have been branching out into developing my own type of neurotech, and worked with, partnered with Mind Machines here, with Christopher's on the line as well, to kind of team up with this new kind of technology that we kind of found from the kind of lost era of time. So we've kind of been building that, and allow Christopher to chime in here on his own background and his own expertise he brings.
Hi, Christopher Oliver. Been a software developer for over 20 years, online marketer as well. And the last decade, I've gotten into search engine optimization and online marketing a lot more heavy. And previously, we had been marketing a variety of Bright Machines and Mind Machines on mindmachines.com. And we had sold another device that is very similar in function to the one that we're marketing now, that was discontinued and never to return again. So that's how Mike and I got going with this. We're really excited about it. It's a really amazing technology that can help so many people out there. And I've been in this Mind Machine game for a long time, used a lot of different devices, you name it. I've tried it. I've programmed sessions for many of the biggest selling Mind Machines out there, several different manufacturers. And having said all that, with all the things that I've actually done, this one is the one I use every day. And that's why I don't even use the ones that I did. We did help, provide the feedback to help make this what it is, but this is so powerful and so amazing that it really changed the focus of what we were doing with the business. And we no longer sell anything else. We only sell this. We used to sell a whole catalog of things. We just sell this now.
That's awesome. And it's called RoshiWave. You know what? Actually,
Roshi. RoshiWave.
Roshi. Okay, great. What I wanted to point out is I was talking about our TeamNets platform, and actually one of our country leads introduced myself and Mike to each other. And just to show how vibrant that community is, I was in the middle of thinking about our summer series for Entrepreneur Essentials, and Mike shared a brief background about him being in the Washington, D.C. area and the work that you guys are doing. And I was like, oh, I want to learn more. And actually, I'm having a series that we're going to be doing for the chapter. So what a wonderful way to have both of you come on and share your story with us. And we're getting to learn more. And so basically I'm saying that on our platform, we're able to meet each other and make connections. And I'm curious about how you two made your connection. How did you meet? Maybe Mike, if you want to share.
Sure. So I was working with a clinician who was working on the earlier predecessor to the RoshiWave, and working on the understanding and background of that device. And at the time, that technology was winding down, and I came across, she introduced me basically to Christopher and Mind Machines. She says, you really should connect with these guys. They're doing something innovative, and they're trying to take this device back into its full iteration. So I connected with him, and he introduced me to the partner we have in Europe, and the engineer. And from there, we just started adding our own contribution, what we knew about the device. It's kind of like puzzle really. It was lost to the era and lost pieces of information that we kind of put together. So Christopher can chime in too if you want.
Yeah, previously at Mind Machines, we were marketing a device back in 2012 and 2013. And that is, you could call that the great grandfather of this device. It was in the same vein and unique to the field. Traditional Mind Machines have one approach. This has the exact opposite kind of approach.
What does it do?
Well, it's a it's a process called dynamic neural activation. What it does is it presents the brain with a very complex set of light signals. You can see it going here, and of course, it's not going to translate so well coming through the video, but what happens is, going back to like the 1920s and 1930s, scientists discovered the frequency following effect. And what that means is when the brain will mimic a controlled pattern of light. So if you flash a light at 4 hertz, the brain waves will start to spike at 4 hertz. And this is how they discovered EEG. And, this is, like I said, really, really old science. Well, along came Mind Machines that would use this back in like around the 70s and the 80s. Mind Machines started getting made that used this concept of pulsed light and sound at specific frequencies to entrain at specific frequencies. Now, that's how all of them are. They're more complicated and there can be longer sessions where they change over time. But what's different about this is it does not follow that pattern. Instead, it does something called disentrainment. Rather than trying to entrain, it creates a novel pattern that the brain cannot follow. So as the brain tries to follow it, after a short period of time, it just gives up and stops trying to follow it, and the brain waves get normalized. So in a lot of different conditions or just even states of mind that are unpleasant, the brain waves are altered in some way. Well, by normalizing the brain waves and quieting down the mind, you reach that state that a Zen monk spends years and years and years trying to get to, and without any effort, in a matter of minutes. It's like a state of no time. I've been on this device doing something called spinal decompression. It's a terrible medieval-like torture that you have when you have a neck injury, and they hook you up to this thing and pulls your neck, and it's very, very uncomfortable. Goes on for about 25 minutes or so. The one day I forgot the machine was the most miserable, horrible version of it I ever had. But with this on, seems like 3-5 minutes.
Who's your customer?
Even though you hear music, you hear stuff going on in the background, and you realize, I think a whole bunch of songs played, but your perception of time is skewed so that a decent amount of time has passed, but it only seems like a short time, and it clears your mind. It gives you that very relaxed, meditative state that is good for anything.
That's awesome. So is your customer, are you B2C or B2B? Who do you?
Good question. Originally, it was more selling to clinicians and therapists at the beginning, but then their patients will want to have their own version. But this is also a retail product, which, going back to the other history, previously that historical device was only sold to clinicians. We partnered with them and took it to the retail world in 2012 and 2013 and sold more of them than anybody had previously. We blew the doors off of sales. We were selling sometimes a couple of them a day, and they were $2,000 devices. Wow. So we were really selling the doors off them. And that's why when the engineer in the Czech Republic had worked on taking this technology into the future, into a miniaturized device, he contacted Mind Machines because we were topping the Google searches still, and we had that reputation of selling it. And so that's how I got involved with the engineer. And then a very well-known clinician, Ibrik, who has written a book on this type of technology, had interfaced with Mike and said, Mike, you need to talk to them. And so that's how we all got together.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for giving us that background, both you and Mike. I want us to shift gears to our main meat of the conversation, which is your strategic partnership, because a lot of us on here are entrepreneurs, are innovators, and we are trying to figure out how to get our product in the hands of customers and how to make those products sell. And we know that one of the main essential factors when we're getting our startups together is your strategic partner. That's a key factor. And you did that, Christopher. You made a strategic, smart move and got a neuroscientist. And so I was just curious just to learn a little bit more about how you knew you needed a neuroscientist. How did you know you needed Mike?
Because we want to have the device. Anecdotally, anybody who uses it is really happy and they get great results. But you want to show the science. So having a partner like Mike that will do research, that will interface with other research people, that can actually develop real clinical data that you can show and say, look, here's what it did to the brain. And this is why it made you feel good. And this is why it makes you feel relaxed and in this meditative state. But here's the real scientific evidence, proof that you can look at. And when it comes to, you see this even in, TV infomercials and stuff. You'll see the guy in the white coat who's the doctor or the scientist who's there. And you want to have that person. When it comes to strategic partnerships, the most important thing is find the partners that do the things that you're not already doing. I'm already an internet marketer. I know how to rank things on search engines. I know how to sell stuff. I know how to write sales copy. I build websites, but I'm not a research scientist. And I'm also not a, like a hardware, product hardware development person like the business partner in the Czech Republic. Mm-hmm. Find partners that will complement you. Don't duplicate. Unless there's so much work to do that you need multiple people, but look for the people that can fill in, because if you can find a partner that can take on a task that you can't take on yourself because it's not your area of expertise, you don't have to hire someone to do it. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. Let them bring value that you don't have to pay for by hiring somebody, especially if it's going to be something ongoing. Where you're going to always need, or I'm always going to need Mike dealing with clinicians and gathering more research, because the more evidence you have when you're selling something like this, the better. Rather than something where it's a one-off. If it's just a one-off thing, like one time you needed somebody to just make a brochure for you and you're not going to have to do it again, hire that person. There's no reason to bring them in as a partner and give them a chunk of the action because they're just doing one little contribution. But focusing on partners that can bring an ongoing contribution that is going to last for the life of the business, that's what you want to find, because that's where you're going to get your greatest value in a strategic partnership.
Yes, thanks. And so I'm going to ask Mike the next question. Can you tell us how your strategic partnership works? How does that work for you?
Sure, Laura. So my function is within the neuroscience realm to kind of do their background research, see what's prior art was done, and bring that forward and kind of bring that together as a collection of data. And then what we've been seeing is something phenomenal. The previous device transcended and continues to the RoshiWave technology. We saw things such as a frontal executive control center increase in blood flow just by using the device. The device flattens the EEG spectrum, which decreases the noise in the EEG, which helps shift from fast stress-induced brainwaves to more relaxed, calm, and focused brainwave patterns. And most importantly, it increases the peak alpha dominant rhythm in the back of the head posteriorly, so that it's been a link to a marker of intelligence and also for cognitive preserve and reserve for older people, keeping their cognitive thinking with them. We've also seen categorically from a clinician standpoint, a lowering of, I would say, excessive brainwaves. So clinicians look at a database, and it's an FDA cleared database, and it shows that the brain is becoming more typical to a normal neurotypical population, which is what a standard cross-section of society. So that's great benefit there. And also we're just seeing in general that it's reaffirming what the previous researcher, Dr. Ebrecht, who still continues with us today, found in her book, The Roshi, which is available by her own contact. I can provide that in the chat. And so we want to catalog the similar transition from the earlier predecessor to the RoshiWave technology, and we found that. So that's what I do on a daily basis. Christopher handles more the day-to-day business and supply lines. He maintains the inventory coming in and the decisions made with that. And our engineer in Czech Republic, he kind of puts this information we gather clinically and as we go forward and helps develop new products and applications.
Awesome. And as you were talking, I just wondered, are y'all doing a study right now? Or do you, where can we, outside of the book, are there any studies that you're currently doing?
Well, you can look on the NN, so I'll put it in the chat. It's just nnrionline.com. It's Dr. Ebrick's website. She has kind of a whole anthology of, or bibliography of research going on there. Oh, wow. And you can see the real-time data she's been doing with her work.
And how long is the impact after you don't use the machine? How long does that last typically?
You know, I think it's phenomenal that it's lasting. I find I use it less. I mean, I have my meditation practice, and I rely on that more so. But I find that it really creates the no thought mind. It really keeps it gives the zazen kind of ever present, you know, ready form to action. You're not pressed by the hang-ups of life. You just kind of go and flow with life, and it's kind of like that conductor that you always grew up with is kind of in the background, and you're flying on your own kind of thing.
Awesome, that's great. So now I also want to
add something really quick to that, because there's two angles. When you use the device, there is that immediate reaction that you get from it, but there's also a cumulative effect. So that the more you use the device on a regular basis, you'll find that, like, the kind of things in daily life that can knock you off your zen, like getting stuck in traffic, things just tend to upset you less as you use it. So if you're using it on a regular basis, it's like it keeps you in that state better. But from the moment you put it on, within a matter of minutes, you're in that state, you're in that really heavy state where you're not, you know, time is distorted and seems like has slowed down a lot. Or, you know, you're in that no time state where a lot of time goes by, but it seems like only a few minutes for you. Whereas, and very relaxed. Whereas over time, the more you use it, and I use it every day, at least once, but sometimes twice, that just those everyday life things that can be very upsetting or stressful things that happen, it just keeps you in your zen, in your calm space, with a clear head, you know, longer and easier, and it's harder to knock you out of that.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So I wanted to take us to the next level of questions. Just when we think about entering into relationships as partners, sometimes that can be tricky. And, you know, as a founder myself, you know, I feel like I have to analyze and think through, like, okay, what are the benefits? What are the pros? You know, do an analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of this relationship for us to kind of cover. And I just was curious as to one, this is a more easier question, but what will follow is more so an analysis of the relationship. But this question I wanted to ask is how RoshiWave has benefited now that you have Mike on board. How has RoshiWave benefited with that?
Well, the big benefit is we now have somebody who is in neuroscience that can talk neuroscience to other neuroscience people. And it's like bringing a translator on board. You know, I'm going to try to explain things in terms that everybody can understand. But when you get really technical into this, you know, neuroscience, technical to some people, gobbledygook, tech speak, he's the guy. And being able to having him interface with these other people, you know, he's much better equipped at talking to them about doing research. You know, I just want to see a result or something, but he can talk their language. He can speak their language, and the product benefits because we get more research, we get more information, and also clinicians. We now have lots of clinicians using this, and he talks to them. Those clinicians make recommendations to their patients. But they also, we have somebody who's got a foot in the company, who's got an interest in it, who is talking to them in their language and bridging that gap.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of value, and it's ongoing value.
Yeah, definitely. And so before you guys entered into the partnership, what were the risks for each of you, if any, if there was anything that you had to think about, and how did you mitigate the risk, if there were any?
I can speak up, and I just say that for myself, I had invested so much in this prior art, and worked with the inventor who, he brought it to creation, and was his kind of his life's mission. He founded it with in a church, actually. His long-term partner of life, they both were leaders in a church, and it had profound effects on his congregation, and just life story, just dramatically changing life stories. How people out of comas would come out of comas with this technology. So knowing that, and that it was so pivotal in the transformative tech world I was working in and was aware of, I knew this was something that really should not go by the wayside. And so my risk was that, this was a lost technology that I'd really grown to appreciate and want to foresee for the future was dwindling into the dust heap. And that, after it was gone, I wouldn't have any, my own self wouldn't have any benefit from my own meditation with it. And, I think each of us had a practical impact of what it was to our own selves, what it would do. Christopher can chime in, but I know he has his own business sense of seeing something that he worked on in 2012 through 2014 and how big it blew up, and just seeing what it could do, just the profound reports that just from all walks of life were saying it was helping them with and everything. And he saw it. It was a growth curve that he'd never seen before in a Mind Machine product. So the fact that we could get it at a low, much cheaper price from a scale of economies of scale, it was just amazing. So he saw that risk that, something that was kind of more of a curated product. It was kind of a bespoke. It was handcrafted the way that the inventor put it together, and that now we could now vertically align this device and kind of mass produce them on a level.
Okay, I'll chime in. So risks. If you're starting up a company and you're building a widget, a big risk is tooling and all of the manufacturing of the device. That's expensive. That requires a lot of upfront cash. What we were able to do, because of my relationships at Mind Machines and also with the inventor in the Czech Republic, we were able to take off-the-shelf parts to make our device. So this case, we didn't have to build injection molds for it. We leveraged an existing one and OEM'd it. Same thing with the glasses. That's a big deal. That's the kind of thing that would have made this prohibitive to ever get it started. So by leveraging some existing parts, we were able to put these things together without having to invest in tooling, which is tremendously expensive. So that is a risk that we mitigated. Risks that we're dealing with is, one, being able to get enough of them, because we can only get them in small batches. Because they do use, like I said, they use existing OEM stuff, and then they're put together using our own operating system and, specialty customization for it. So sometimes we've had trouble getting enough of them at a time. And then, of course, if we got a whole bunch of them, we'd have a bunch of inventory and need to be able to sell it. So, but that hasn't been a problem. We've been selling very quickly, so that's good. This whole COVID-19 thing threw a wrench into, because a lot of the parts come from China. Oh. So we had delays and back orders and stuff. And then also shipping internationally with the whole pandemic thing going on, it was very difficult to get things. Even today, I have an order that's gone internationally, and it was sent express, mind you. Okay. And it hasn't gotten delivered, and it's been almost 2 weeks, whereas it should have been a matter of days. So that's a risk, but I think it's something that as things wind down, that is going to, work itself out. Yeah. But, I would say that those are and then there's the risk of investing time and marketing into it. You're going to, if you're going to bring some investment into marketing, into online marketing and time as well, you want to get a return for it. Yeah. And I have done many things where I did a lot of work and never never made the money back.
Mm.
So we were a little smarter about how we did it this time.
Great.
And Laura, I would say that for the benefit of the risks involved for our engineer in Europe, his main source of revenue, or at least his main project he worked on for a good 10 years, was dwindling away. And so he had the opportunity to work on a new technology, a new platform, and really capitalize on that revenue stream, keep coming in.
That's great. And so I definitely heard from Christopher that he has benefited by having you, Mike, on board to speak the technical language associated to the app and to your machine. And so I'm curious as to what has been the benefit for you being part of this.
I think for me, it feels it feels my own sense of contribution to the community. It gives me a sense to pay it backwards and forwards. Give a sense that this community is growing. Get a kind of a real palpable feel that there's momentum and progression going with this community at large.
That's awesome. That's great. I'm looking at our time. I am being aware of time. And so I see that we have about 12 minutes and I want to make sure we're able to get some questions in. So I want us to wrap up our conversation right now with just leaving some recommendation. And I believe, Christopher, you did give a recommendation. I don't know if you have any more, but if you could share with the group any recommendation that transformative tech entrepreneurs and innovators should consider when thinking about forming strategic relationships.
Well, definitely, like before, find somebody with skills that you don't have that has an ongoing value. Because sometimes you can have and I've done this before, you can find a partner where up front it's really great because you need something done up front, but then years down the road, they're just sitting there and they don't have anything to do and they're still collecting money. So find a partner that has an ongoing value that can contribute for the life of the company or the business, for the life of the business, that they're gonna, because you want to partner with somebody like that, partner with somebody that can do things that you can't do, or that you don't have time to do, or that, you're too busy with other things. You want an expert who's zeroed in on exactly that and getting that done. And then, what you're selling, depending on what it is that you're selling, you might find a partner that can leverage their connections to get a better deal on the manufacturing, to find off the shelf OEM parts, finding people that can, I guess I'd say that the biggest thing is that they bring an ongoing value and it's something that you couldn't just do yourself. Mm-hmm. That'd be my number one recommendation.
Thanks. Mike, do you have one?
Yeah, I would say bring it forward from a place of strength and skill. I mean, obviously follow your interest to what you're good at and see if there's mutual synergies within the field you're working in. And then oftentimes it's a matter of just offering a free recommendation or giving solutions freely. Putting out there and see what comes back. I mean, if you present to an entrepreneur a solution to an existing problem or give them a couple of options, it opens a door for a further conversation, which you can develop and establish a further working relationship.
That's great. So thank you both. I want to see if anyone has any questions. If you want to put them in the chat or hop on, unmute your mic and hop on and ask Mike and Christopher. Are there any questions? There are no burning questions? I know I have a few more, but I want to make sure that I give time for everyone, for people to get questions in. Well, if anyone wants to jump in, feel free. I'll start asking. Christopher and Mike, I know you have a third main partner, and I was just curious, like, how does your interaction with each other all work? Do you?
That's really, he's in the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
So English is not a first language for him. So a lot of it is just by email, because things, and he sends his answers back in English. You just, stay away from big words. that will be hard to translate. But all of our interaction with him is by typing as
Oh,
opposed to speaking.
wow. Wow. And so how did you meet him, Christopher?
I knew him from years ago because he's been in the mind machine space for, a very long time. So I already knew him. And I also knew that he was involved in that previous, grandfather device of this,
Mm-hmm.
that he had some involvement there. And I knew him, through that. And he, when developing this OS operating system for this device and cobbling it together, was thinking about how he could go about selling it, and remembered to come contact me because I had sold so many of the other ones.
Oh,
We got with him.
awesome. And okay, and so you just have to communicate via email. And so what does he do now as part of the partnership?
He continues to develop. Like we just made the 2.0 version, which has even more models in it. A model is, like a representation. We have all the historical devices. There were 3 versions of the old classic device. We now have perfect models of all of them. And then we have all these new models that Mike and I have worked to, come up with the ideas about what we want them to do. And then he finds a way to make it happen.
Wow,
So we're iterating and improving the product over time.
that's awesome. So how often do you and Mike get together and plan?
At least once a week.
Oh, okay, great.
And a lot of emails go back and forth all the time. So
Nice.
it's kind of like bit by bit with emails.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, you guys are doing amazing work. I'm excited about this machine. I'm like, it's really neat. Yeah. Are there any questions? I think I have exhausted. I wanted to learn more about your third partner, and I think you've covered that. So I believe that if there's no more questions, I don't want to just have us hold on. So we want to just tell you both thank you for joining us. And again, we're apologetic for the difficulties earlier, but we got our interview in, which is awesome. And it's recorded. So everyone who couldn't join us or left because we weren't on the first 5-10 minutes now can see this recording and hear your partnership story. So thank you both Mike and Christopher for sharing that with us. This is inspiring because strategic partnership is really a key ingredient, and it sounds like your RoshiWave has many players and partners in the fold of getting it built and keeping on elevating your product, which is amazing. And I think what you 3 are doing together is really cool. And it was great to hear how you guys make that work. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's a great time.
Thanks. All right. Thanks, everyone. You all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye.